Is up, everyone? My name is Tim, and I'm here to showcase you one of my favorite games to play, which is World of Tanks Blitz. And I will be showcasing you a tank that I play with in this game, the XM551 Sheridan Airborne Assault slash Airborne, Armored Reconnaissance Vehicle. Now, this tank is one of the most iconic tanks in World of Tanks Blitz, as it stirs the most controversy within the Blitz community and the wargaming development community, as they keep buffing and nerfing this thing back and forth, improving it, making it worse, as if they can't figure out what they're going to do with it to make it balanced. So this is one of my favorite tanks, and that is one of the reasons why, because it just looks so good to look at, and it plays so well, and is one of the most iconic tanks in Blitz. Now let's first figure out what is the XM511 Sheridan. It is a light tank in the American tech tree. Now let's look over at the American tech tree. As we can see here, it is the only light tank featured in the American tech tree, the XM551 Sheridan. Now let's go look at the statistics of this tank. What makes this tank so special and controversial? Now it arms the 152mm M150 gun, has a reload time of 13.65 seconds, which gives it a damage per minute of 2462. It is quite a good gun. All things considered, is a derp gun, so I would highly considering play this as a shotgun of tier 10. Not really, your sniper, although it can be played as your sniper depending on how skilled you can be with this. Although I would not suggest that. There are quite more different accurate ways you can hit your targets, which we will get to in a second. Dispersion time of 3.347, which is okay, but could be better. Aiming time of 4.9 seconds. So this tank takes a little bit too long to little bit time to stare at your enemy before you can shoot at them, and you might get a little bit of accuracy issues, but most part 3.347 on a big fat 152mm gun is pretty good. I would not say, 105mm gun, I'd expect a 0.29, maybe 0.30 dispersion, but we'll take 0.347 for now. Now we move on to the average penetration of this gun. We go armor piercing composite rigid, which is the standard round of this Sheridan tank, which means it has higher shell velocity and less normalization required to hit its target when it's traveling in the air compared to a armor piercing round. So just overall, it's a faster round, and it looks like a laser when it shoots at your enemies. Now it has a 230mm of penetration, so you shouldn't have too much of a difficult time getting through at tier targets, and not too much of a difficult time to get through your tier 9 targets. But it did not used to be, it was not as awesome as it used to be when the 6.7 update came out with 240mm penetration. Now that was something to talk about, but 230mm, not bad of a buff, I'll take it. High explosive anti-tank is 310mm, used to be 340mm, but considering what we will see for the use of the high explosive anti-tank missiles, is that 310mm would be more than enough to get through the top armor of tanks, which is the weakest part of any tank. High explosive penetration of 90mm will get through any soft targets, particularly we're talking about the bat chat and the sides of any medium tanks that are less than 90mm, and the sides of heavy tanks that are less than 90mm. So informing yourself on different armor statistics of different tanks that you're fighting is very useful when you switch to your high explosive ammunition. Now moving to your average damage, we're looking at 560 on the APCR round, which is quite impressive and quite expected of a 152mm gun. Packs quite a punch, and another reason why it's called a shotgun of tier 10. And the high explosive anti-tank is 490. It used to be the same 560, very powerful. They nerfed it down to the average damage of 490. And yes, that is still pretty decent, especially with the type of gameplay that you will see here using the missiles. But it was not nearly as broken as it used to be when it first came out. Now, it's still pretty good, but when we look at the high explosive, average damage is 680. Now, you're saying, okay, that's pretty good, right? But there are tons of other 152mm guns that do 960 alpha damage on their high explosive. So looking at 680 is quite unimpressive compared to 960, let's say, even on your tier 9 object 704. Now let's look at the depression and elevation. 10-20 degrees of elevation, 10 degrees of depression, the gun depression. So nothing lackluster, and in fact a premium standard of all American tech tree tanks that are a competitive tank to use in any game. Concealment is firing upon stationary is 10, so firing this gun, expect yourself to get spotted. Don't assume that when you're firing at someone that you will not be spotted. You will get hit when you fire because the light bulb will turn on after 3 seconds. So better instinctively move away so you don't get shot by any enemy snipers that you could fail to spot. Now looking at the turret armor, very, very basic, 40 millimeters in the front and side, rear 15. So this is not very ideal for the protection that we will actually be talking about of the Sheridan tank, which really shines actually in the hull armor. Now you're saying 25 millimeters, 32, 12, half an inch of steel armor. That's pretty goddamn unimpressive. I mean, that's thin, man. That's thin as the piece of paper I'm holding to write this script. But actually it has an additional taper of 3 millimeters of spaced armor on the hull, which actually is very, very overpowered, considering things that even the most powerful high explosive shells firing at your tank will be absorbed by the spaced armor. So anybody going up against this tank, do not shoot it with high explosive shells, because you may not think that you may not expect or intend the amount of nerfed damage that you would be expecting upon when you fire high explosive at this hull. If you are really a skilled player, at least fire at the turret of this tank, because that is where you can penetrate it without having any worries of space armor. Chance to fire when engine is hit, 12%. Very good percentages. You don't have to worry too much when it comes to your engine getting hit and catching fire. In fact, I don't find that many instances where the Sheridan gets on fire. So you're pretty good in this playing field. View range of 298.3, around 300 meters basically. Pretty good, very good actually for spotting range. That's what you need for a scout tank. Concealment 43 while moving and stationary. Not the best because the Sheridan is actually a pretty tall tank. So yes, it's expected to have good camo values, but not the greatest. And firing on stationary, like I said again, expect yourself to get spotted every time you fire at a target. Don't guess and check, actually instinctively move. That's my best suggestion. So now we've covered the firepower, and now we're going to go to the maneuverability. 65 millimeters in forward, reverse is 65 kilometers and 22 in reverse per hour. Very good statistics for a light tank. Average speed 52 kilometers per hour. Very good. You're going to be zooming around that battlefield real fast. I mean, very fast. So power to ton ratio, again, further proves my point that the maneuverability of the Sheridan is supreme and excellent. Weight is 17 tons, so don't expect to be ramming anywhere, or hope not to get rammed, because you're in a pretty sticky situation if you get rammed, not gonna lie. Turret traverse speed of 39.25 degrees, not the best. In fact, it's actually pretty disappointing when you're actually in game. When you're trying to turn your turret by yourself so you don't sacrifice that camouflage balance for you not to get spotted, but it doesn't seem fast enough to chase a leading tank. So you really have to look then at your hull traverse speed, which is 61.82 degrees. Now coupling that with the turret traverse speed should be able to cover your lackluster turret traverse speed. So when you're firing and reacting to an enemy movement, you can react doing so by turning your hull and your turret at the same time. Terrain cross compatibility and capacity is quite impressive. Road 121, ground 99, and water 73, both all very impressive statistics for groundwork for this tank. Engine power 682.5 with added on provisions and equipment, so you won't have to worry about any slowdowns or slip-ups. But in the next update, this engine power is getting reduced to 485. So look out for that 200 minus on that engine power. We're going to see some very, very interesting characteristics of the mobility of this tank once the 7.0 update drops. So definitely adjust your play styles, definitely get informed about what you should do with this tank after the nerf. Alright, now I've done enough talking. Let's get into some fabulous replays, shall we? Now we are on the map Faust here in our Sheridan tank in our very first replay for you in this video. We will start looking at the Sheridan tank and how you should be able to use the missiles, because the missiles is what makes this tank supreme. I mean, it makes it very good. So here is some showcase. Now what I do in every game is I look at the team composition of our team and their team, but particularly their team first, because we need to know what we're going up against. We're looking at a 121, we're looking at a Sheridan Sidewinder, we're probably looking at these tank destroyers looking at us, so we have to watch out for them. And here's our first light tank over here, firing missile, bam, we hit him. He can't even see us, he can't even hit us back, and we just slap him 485 with a missile. Now the trick to fire your missiles is to actually, most people think, well, all you need to do is drag and drop your missiles. Well, that's not necessarily the case. You can't control where your arc of your missile is going to go into be. And look what we did. We hit it. We hit the object chaser without having to do all this crazy looting. And what the secret sauce is, ladies and gentlemen, is on the PC, you right click to lock your turret and gun elevation or depression in place. So you don't have to worry about all that crazy maneuvering. All you have to worry about is pointing your crosshair on the target. And that's what we did to that grill. We nailed 3 fantastic solid shots into the 3 enemy tanks on their team. And they're probably very frustrated, and their chieftain is really responding to that call of frustration. And the object, now see that armor, we just showcased how trollish this armor is, and obviously the enemy object 268 failed to understand that our spaced armor can nullify his high explosive rounds, and he ends up dead for chasing us. Now we have this 121 invincible after us medium tank, quite a fierce opponent, but our Jagdpanzer E100 will be able to kill him after I insert one more shot into this guy. One more shot, bam, we run away, making sure we don't get retaliated again, and yes, the Jagdpanzer E100 comes in with the affirmative call saying he has taken care of my sticky situation. Now we move back up, but this battle is quite short-lived, but I'd say it's pretty good in the long run. I kind of screw up over here, but all things aside, everybody makes mistakes. I kind of was hesitant on what shell I should use, but because I was really going after him for missiles today, and I kind of faltered, and this turn will be the result of my demise. However, sure be not, our team will win this match, conquering over the E100 and the Chieftain Mark 6, and we will win in a 4-on-2 to 4-0 victory. So this was a solid match to see, a quick match representing the troll armor of this tank and the excellent missile capabilities that it can dish out against your enemies. Now we move on to Himmelsdorf and our T92E1. Now, we are not using our Sheridan tank, but the T92E1 is a very similar counterpart to the Sheridan, all things considered. However, we will be showcasing the characteristics of the missile tanks of not using the missiles. We will use them as conventional tanks this time around. In fact, we will actually score big in this match, not using any missiles, but performing as a standard light tank. Now I come up here in this part in the part of the neck of Himmelsdorf, spotting, looking down the middle, seeing if there's any straggling flankers that our team can see and know what's going on in case they don't get choked by a flank element and the main force element, because they have 3 heavies. But we will see what they have to do, because I will actually spot some heavy tanks going the flank maneuvering direction, which actually I was quite surprised that the T-37 was spot up there. I thought all their heavies would conjoin up in where all our heavies then have a big relative death. However, that is not the case. In fact, the IS-5 is the only one to show up against our full heavy tank force. I was quite surprised, and I just came in and, hey, well, we can just finish this guy off. And I realized I don't want to take a shot from him, so I let the E-75 take a shot, and I take the kill. Isn't that excellent teamwork, guys? I mean, totally still a kill right there. And we noticed that the enemy team on the minimap is fully in flank operation with us, and we notice that an RHM is running away and is isolated, and we shoot a big fat HE round, scoring a very high roll, very lucky high roll. Make sure you know where to fire and hope for the best for the high explosive, because I don't really depend on the high explosive. It's a really finicky damage roller, but it can really get the job done when you need it. Now we look at the T30, we shoot, oh, look at that fire, that engine fire right there, enemy on fire, that's what we're talking about. Now we made sure we stopped, make sure we were unspotted for a second, and not sure he's turning around, and then we go poke in, and that's the type of strategy I use in case I don't remember if I've been spotted or not. Just make sure, just for safe measure, the guy isn't looking at me when I pop up and I take an unnecessary amount of damage. Well, the E75 notices that we came up, but we get a lucky miss, a lucky bounce. So we get to do a circle of death on him, but we pass him. We go for the T30 instead because he's more isolated, and the E75 would have been more focused on me. But luckily, our T30 and E75 aren't the most skilled players in the league, and we hit the T30 with that large, fat, high explosive high roll on top of another engine fire. I mean, what are the chances of getting 2 engine fires on the same tank in the same game? That is incredible luck. Now we're going on the E75 head, making sure we get the shot in the rear and not risk any deflections on his unordinarily big side armor. Now we go for the T49 Hornet and ignore the kill on the E75 because we know we can one-shot this T49, and the IS-2SH has gotten the guy. Now we're going to take a shot from the T49 because we know we are going to take a shot and live, and he won't. And the WT Alt Panzer IV wins, and we win this game huge. We end up on this game with 4,305 damage. That is quite an impressive amount of damage. We end up with 30,000 credits, 2,500 experience points, and a first class and high caliber. Quite an excellent game for a recording that I'm trying to pull up in the middle of an undesirable situation in real life. So, yep. This is a showcase of the missile tanks, particularly the Sheridan and the T92E1 actually. So I hope you all enjoyed and subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.